Hi guys, welcome back to Crafty Quilting Designs. I hope you are fantastically well. Today my video is a little bit late because I was a little bit busy. I had a party to go to and I know I needed to make some content for my channel, and so I decided to make my jelly roll quilt in a day, and it worked out really well. So I didn't put the video up as yet because I was a little bit tired, and yeah, I was just really tired to be honest. So it was a bit of a delay in putting up the video. So anyway, let me tell you what I actually did. So I made, and I've got it all here ready, I made a jelly rolls picture frame quilt, and it is absolutely gorgeous. And I'll tell you a little story of how I actually came up with it. I wasn't sure of what I wanted to name the quilt, and as I started to lay it out and did all of my orientation, it just literally hit me, and all of the charm squares, which is what I actually use as well, look like little pictures in the actual frames. And I was like, oh wow. So I called my husband really quickly. Carl, I know what I'm actually going to name this quilt. So he said, what is it? I said, it's jelly roll picture frames. And that's exactly how it was born. I'm going to leave a pattern in the description box below, so don't forget to download it and try it out and let me know how you actually get on. And while you're down there, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. And again, leave me a comment and of course a thumbs up, and share that video out. It's really important that you do that. Okay, so let me take you through how I actually made this beautiful quilt, and I'll open it up so you can actually have a quick peek of it. Hopefully you can see it nice and clear. There you go. Now what I would say though is that you can make this with just 2.5 strips that you have in your stash, because remember, this is our Stash Buster series we're doing for jelly rolls, and this is Stash Buster 5, I think, for our jelly rolls. So we're doing pretty well on them, pretty well. So don't forget to share your project with me. I'd like to see how you're getting on with yours. And as I was saying, you can actually use strip sets for this. You can cut your own strip sets, you can make your own charm squares. Remember, we are using our stash, so the idea is that you do not go and buy any fabric. The idea is that you use what you have available in your stash, okay? Because at the end of the day, it is a stash buster. So let's get right into this video and I will show you how I made it. Okay guys, so to make the picture frame, we need obviously our jelly rolls and some 5-inch squares. Now if you've got jelly roll scraps, you're more than welcome to use that, which is like a combination of a few of what I've actually used for mine. Obviously I had some leftover jelly rolls, and rather than starting a new pack, I thought that the best thing to do is to use them up as I go. At the end of the day, we are doing stash busters, so I've used leftover jelly rolls from my stash, and as well as we need some white backing fabric as well. Now for these we're going to be needing 5, and these are going to form our inner borders. So we need 5 by 2.5 for our inner borders, and this will be the length of your quilt top. Okay, also for the final border, we will also need some 4 patches, which I've already gone ahead and make. So you can do that with any sort of leftover jelly roll strips that you have, and I'm sure you can make a 4 patch, so I don't need to demonstrate that. Okay, so we will need 6 of these in total, and I've already cut those. We will also need for our final border another 4 of these, and these will be measuring the width of these, which is 3.5. So whatever yours come out as, yeah, these are definitely 3.5. I just measured them on my board. So we will need, I'll repeat that, 6 of these, and for our final borders, we will need 4 of these at 3.5. Okay, and these, once you've made them, these should come up at 3.5. So I've used 2 inches to actually make these, so 2-inch strips, and cut them down into 2 by 2. Obviously that's square, and then obviously make my 4 patch, which equates that our final border will be a 3.5 strip. All right. So to make the picture frame, I have some of my jelly rolls here already that I've already cut down, and remember to sort of contrast your fabrics very well. So for something like this, it wouldn't really work because obviously there is nothing there to pick up each other to coordinate with any of the fabrics. All right, so, or the print itself, sorry. So this one could work, and we've got a bit of green there, and we've got a green and some cream there as well, so this could be contrasting. All right, this can possibly work also. I don't see a problem with that one. Okay, even this will work together really nicely. So it's entirely down to you of what you actually use. Again, you can just use whatever strips you want, but again, contrast your fabrics together so that everything works. But I'm going to go forward with this one particular, these ones here, and I need to make 3 left. In total, you need 6 for your, sorry, 6, what's wrong with me? You need 36, you need 36 blocks in total, so 36 picture frame blocks is what we need, okay? So as I said, 5-inch squares, and I've cut these from yardage. I did have some 5-inch squares that I also used, but obviously I went looking in my stash to see what I had that I can actually make full use of rather than buying new fabric. So this is what I had in my stash. So what you need to do is measure 5 there. So obviously our jelly roll is 2.5, okay? And I'm just going to cut 5. Again, use your board, or you can just use your 5-inch strip to measure. So using a board, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's where my cut is going to go. And I need 2 of these, so you can fold these together and make them. Right, so each square will have 2 of these, and this is quite simplistic, nothing stressful. So that's 2. So I need another 2. So I'm going to fold this over. In fact, I need another 4 because I'm doing 3 more blocks. As I said, 36 is what you need. Now, what I've also tried to do, it just gives me exactly 5. So I'm just going to cut it in half. That should be easier rather than folding it. What I have done with my blocks is I've made 4 for each of it, or if you wanted to, you can do like 2, you can do 3, and you can do 4 to make up the actual quilt top, or to make total your 36. Okay, and the reason why I've done that is so that I have coordinating fabrics throughout, or I should say coordinating blocks throughout the quilt top, rather than just having 2. So it's going to look sort of scrappy-ish, which works out really lovely. So for this particular cut now, the second cut, I need 9 inches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And again, I need 2 of each. So each 5-inch square will take 2 9-inch strip and 2 5-inch strip. Okay, now if you need to iron your strips, if they're a little bit crinkly and you've had them folded for a bit of a time, I would advise you to do that. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I like to count just to make sure, because I have cut incorrectly before when I'm not paying attention, and I always seem to make a mistake when my husband comes in to chat to me, and he always distracts me. I tell you guys, I tell you no lie, it always happens. Even if I am sewing, he comes in and talks to me, and I've done something wrong and I have to unpick it. So I always say to him, don't talk to me, I'm busy. Okay, 9. Again, you can fold these, but because I've only got just the last 3 to do, it's no big deal. So this block comes together quite quickly. I made this quilt in a day. So I got up this morning and I thought, right, I'm going to make a quilt top. And it wasn't the actual quilt that I'd planned to make, if I have to be honest. But I saw all of these jelly rolls there and I thought, you know what, I need to get rid of these. Let me make sure that I hate having all the strips hanging around. So I thought, let me use them up and make something. And this is what I came up with. This is my brain said to me to do, and this is what we're going with. So this is how we're going to lay it out, like that. Like that. Okay, that's an end piece. I'll get another one that needs trimming off. That's it there. And then our other length goes around it there. So it literally is framing the square. So what I would say, whatever you decide to use, whatever 5-inch square you decide to use, if you wanted to even fussy cut your 5-inch square, just make sure that it's a nice picture. When I say it's a nice picture, a nice cut within the middle that you want to use, and make sure that your orientation is correct in terms of whatever is in that particular fabric. It works well with floral as well as geometrical shapes. It works really well with that also. So this is what your block will look like. Obviously it's not stitched together, so that is it. Okay, and so then what we will do is sew, obviously, 1/4 inch seam, front sides together, and then we add these two together onto there, and this is what your block will look like. Alright, so that's one that, as I said, I've used variations of colors throughout the block. Alright, so again, however you see fit to do, but again, make sure that all of the colors that you use are coordinating. Yeah, so they're very good contrast. So again, we have floral and floral, but it's a larger print against a smaller print. Alright, but this one we have white spots on blue, but again we have a floral around it. So in this case, this is really framing out that that fabric there. All right, this one here, again we have red, and again we have a nice picture in the middle there. So again, hence the reason why your quilt is going to be called picture frames. All right, so we need 36 of these. So let's go over to the sewing machine and I'll show you how to sew those together. Okay, so I have my 1/4 inch seam feet already on, and I am laying out my 5-inch square the way I want my picture to look. So I'm going to add my first strip on top, make sure it's all leveled out. Now your block, once made, should come up to 9 inches square. So again, ensure that it's front sides together. Now there is a little bit of a trimming involved, so nothing major, just literally things like that will probably need coming off. I mean, you can leave it on there, but it's just extra fabric that is going to be on the block once you're quilting. So you can trim that off, which I have done. And again, line it up, put it underneath. These blocks does not take long to make at all. The picture frame comes together quite quickly. And that's it. And I'm going to finger press. Now you can get up and add on a proper pressing if you want, but I think finger pressing makes it lays nice and flat, and I don't think is necessary. It again depends on how crinkle or wrinkle your fabrics are once you've had them in your stash there. So it really depends on, but that's down to you, and I'm sure you can make that decision for yourself. You don't need me to tell you that. So again, line it up, front sides together, and you see what I mean with that extra bit there. So if you want, you can trim it off, but I'm not going to bother. I'm just going to go ahead and do it. And I can see it move slightly, so I'm just going to make sure that it's staying in that 1/4 inch seam. No, and it is not. Let me just check that. Alright, so I'm going to go from this side. Probably it's best to stitch from this side so you can actually see it line up properly. And we're going to start again, because it just moved there. There we go. Now let's check that and see what that looks like on the other side. Okay, that's good, excellent. Right, next one. Again, front sides together. I'm just going to anchor that down so that doesn't move again. Lovely, and that's simply our block, as you can see, nice and easy. All right, so I'm going to do another one. Well, I've got 2 more to do, and then I will set the seams on these, and then I will show you how to lay them out. Okay guys, so let's set the seams. So I have mine here, and I have not opened them as yet, so I'm just setting the seams there and on this side as well. Then I'm not interested in opening the blocks and pressing them at the moment. What I am doing here is just simply setting the seams so I can trim off any excess when I go to the cutting board. So rather than open it up, I mean, we can simply open the blocks and iron them out nice and flat here. Can simply do that, but in all honesty, I haven't been doing this process. What I have been doing is what I did initially. So I set the seams first, and then I go to the cutting board, and then I line up my ruler and trim off any extra edges I have there. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to keep to what I have been doing, and you can clearly see here on this side where it needs trimming off. So again, I'm just going to set my seams. On both sides. And this one as well, because I did 3 altogether. On this side as well. Okay, and now I'm going to go over to the cutting board and square them up properly. So let's go do that now. Now the simplest way to square these up is to just simply put your block down and line it up with the edge that is already the shortest, because that will be the actual length that you need to cut it at. And then you just simply trim them down to the right size that you need it to be. I'm cutting at a very awkward angle here, so let me do it this way. It'll probably be a lot more easier. Okay, lovely. And I think this side's okay, so I'm going to do this side now. Check this one, and I can see this one needs doing. Again, line that up on the straight edge and go across. This one's fine on that side as well. And this is the one we actually pressed open. So I'm just going to fold it back, and I can see this one is fine. It doesn't need trimming at all, so that one is fine. Okay, so now we're going to go back to the ironing board and flatten these out really nice and smooth, and make sure there's no creases there. All right, because hence the reason why I wanted to cut them at this stage. So once we go back, we can then open them out very gently, and then we can then give it steam so that the block lays really nice and flat. So let's go do that now, and then I'll show you how to lay them all out. Okay, so to iron these now, again, I will just smoothen out the top there first, just to make sure it's all good. And I'll peel it back nice and gentle, push it back with my fingers first, because remember, I don't want to stretch anything, so just ensure that. And then just simply get those creases out, because remember, these jelly rolls, once they're stitched together, they tend to fold over there, and you can lose some width. And I know it's small quantities, but you can lose some width in reference to your sides of your block. So peel it back nice and gentle, push it back with your fingers, make sure it's nice and smooth. Get the iron and just put it back down and just smoothing it out, just like that. And again, I'm adding just very little steam because the iron is not very hot, but the steam is definitely there. And you have your perfectly squared picture frame block. Okay, so do that with all of your blocks, and let's go lay them out now. All blocks are now completely ironed and ready to be laid down. What you need to be concerned of is making sure that your blocks are laid out with this area on the top. Right, also to be concerned about our actual picture frame here. So whatever the image or the fussy cut that you've got in your picture frame, you need to make sure it's also upright. So for example, if you turn it like that, obviously is the other way around. It needs to be laid out correctly and it will be noticeable. So try and make sure you remember that. And lay them out in the way that you intend to pick them up. So there are no matching seams in the middle there. All of the blocks are just simply just stitched together. Again, I have my beautiful floral print here. I want to make sure it's nicely upright. Okay, another one there as well. And another one there as well. I'm just going to move these down a little bit so I have enough room that you can see what I'm actually doing. Okay, now what I would be mindful of is adding these two together. I'm just going to move these down a bit. So remember, we have 36 blocks all together. So we will stitch all these together in a row first before we do anything else. Now these two colors here is what I will literally swap around. I wouldn't want very similar contrasting colors together, nor would I want the same sort of jelly rolls together. Okay, so I'm going to swap around. So I'm going to move these two. I'm going to put that one there and this one here. Again, ensuring that my block is laid out in the proper orientation, because I moved it and I did not put it back correctly, so I noticed that very quickly. And just double check that everything is correct. Okay, now remember, the way you pick it up is very likely the way you are going to stitch it together. So when I'm ready to sew this, I will pick it up like so, because I know then that the first one on top is the first block I am going with. Okay, and you can actually take a pin and some paper and pin it so that you know this is your first block. Right, so I'm going to do that now so that I remember. I'm just going to pin that in there so that I know that's block one and everything else comes after that. Now I'm just going to put this back out again, checking that my orientation of my picture frames are correct. Now this stitched together very quickly, this quilt top. It really stitches together very quickly. You will not spend 2 days on this. This is a quilt in a day, literally. As you can see, we've only made 2 sets of cuts, so it goes together very quickly. Now once you've stitched the whole roll together, the next thing to go on is your white inner borders. And again, this is a same width as your jelly roll, which is 2.5, and you will stitch these on there. Then you'll do the same thing again for your second row, again ensuring that you start with this area at the top. So again, we're looking for that shorter piece of our jelly roll at the top, and we're going to lay it right there, again ensuring that there are no similar colors right next to each other and everything lays out properly. And again, turning just to make sure that your pictures are laid out properly as well. Okay, so again, I'm going to move this one. I'm probably going to move this one down. And the last one there. Now, what I would say is to ensure that, again, similar blocks are not directly next to or opposite each other. So for example, and make sure you spot these, try not to do something like that. So don't have blocks like that opposite each other. Okay, I mean, you can, if that's what you're looking for or that's what you're going with, by all means go for it if that's what you want. But I personally don't like that, because then in my head I could have then not add that and then just sew all the blocks together, really. All right, so but I would say move your blocks around, make sure you double check before you actually stitch together. All right, so lay them out in the orientation that you will be happy with, and then you sew this row together. So you sew your first row together, then you add on your inner border, then you sew your second row together, and there's another step that I need to show you. So let me get rid of all of these, and notice the way I'm actually stacking them. I'm stacking them in the way that I know I'm going to sew it. So I started from the left and I work my way down, because this is my first one. Okay, same with this one. I'm stacking it in the way I know I'm going to pick them up. That's going to go on top there. Okay, now I've already started, so this is what it's going to look like. Alright, so this is my first row here, already stitched on, and as you can see, there is nothing at the top because we're going to add another border all the way around, which I've already mentioned. But what I really wanted to point out to you here, after you stitch your first row and your second, before you add your second, the most important thing you need to ensure is that you add your row and you fold it over, take a pin, and you're literally going to pin right in between that seam onto that seam there, so that you know it's matching before you actually add on your next row. Before you stitch that white border onto this row, you know you're matching those seams. Okay, so let me show you how to do that now, and then we can complete the quilt top. All right, so let's go to add on the next border onto my sashing here now. Okay, so again, I've already have my tag there, so that I know this is my first block, and I'm going to ensure again that this is the orientation that I'm laying it out, because I want these seams here at the top. And I'm going to introduce my other block, and again I'm turning it to ensure again it's laid out correctly, and I'm going to go right sides together, and again there's no matching seams, so these come together quite quickly. So just ensure that you line them up correctly, and if you want to ensure again that your blocks are at the same size, you can just literally match these seams here. So then you know that your blocks have been trimmed correctly. As you can see there, all edges meet. All right, so underneath, again, I've already have my 1/4 inch foot on. Line up. And just sew. This literally can come together in a day, which is what it took me to do. I started in the morning and just got on with it, really. And that's it. Take out, open up, move the other one down, and again introduce the other one. Ensure that the orientation is correct. My picture in my frame is nicely squared out, i.e. it's not upside down. And again, front sides together, and just simply sew. Okay, again, beautiful, absolutely beautiful, nice and simple, no stress sewing, and it makes a really, really beautiful quilt. I actually came up with this idea because I had to go to my niece's birthday party, and of course I know that I needed to do my quilt because I've got to get my quilt fixed for the weekend, and so therefore I thought, well, what can I do that's nice and quick and easy? And this is what I came up with, and I absolutely loved it. I thought it's just so quick and easy, and that's why it was done in a day, really. So again, really simple to do, no issues at all. Right, line up, check, everything's correct. Fold over, front sides together, and sew. Okay, so again, check, make sure my picture is nicely upright, front sides together, it's a beautiful beginner's quilt, but also very, very quick and simple to do. So really, I wouldn't say mindless sewing because you still need some form of concentration to make sure everything is done properly, but it's a sort of sewing that you can do without and cutting, I should say, without too much stress on the mind, and just relax and enjoy, watch a movie, which is what I did actually while I was doing this, and just chill out and enjoy your process of doing this. I tell you, sometimes this machine, it is so quiet that sometimes I think it is not sewing, and I have to double check that it is actually sewing. I'm thinking, is it actually stitching? Because and I have to check that it's actually done correctly because it is so quiet. And that was my last block. I didn't even realize. I actually went looking for another one. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so let me finish sewing all of the rest of them, and I shall show you how to actually add this on to the sashing. Let's go do that now. Okay, so these are now ready. I've added on some already, as I said. So my blocks with my frames are added on to my inner border, and so now what I'm going to do now is take this row, lay it front sides together, and the important thing here is to match up your seams, because remember we stitched them together there, and so what we've created is some seams, so we need to match them. Now if you don't get them correctly, no big deal. What will happen visually, it will just look slightly offset, okay, but I like the sort of straight line look to it, so I'm going to ensure that it's matched up. All right, and to simply do that, lay it on top of the sashing, sorry, the borders, and what I would like you to do is to simply just poke it through, take your pin, put it through the seam of the border you're going to add it onto, and pin the other border together so that it sits there literally on top of each other. So you have seam against seam. Do that for all of them, okay, so that it lines up properly. And if you have literally pieced it together properly, you really shouldn't have an issue with actually pinning it together, because it would have mean that you haven't stretched any of your blocks when you were making them. All right, so but as I said, if it's not done, it's not the end of the world. it will just give an offset appearance. But this stage is important, so don't miss this stage. Otherwise, as I said, it will be very visually noticeable that your seams are not matching up across the border, and it will look offset. But if that's the look you're going for, by all means, go ahead. So I'm just pinning the last one there because obviously there's nothing to hold it against. So I'm just going to go over to the sewing machine now, stitch these all on, then I'll come back and show you the completed look for the quilt top. The quilt top is now ready. So this is what it looks like. I've added 3 borders. So at first I did a first border all the way around the quilt, which is a 1.5 inch, and then I added a border at the top and bottom of a strip border of 2.5, and then the final border had the 4 patch with a 3.5. So that's what it looks like. So our next stage now is to baste the quilt and quilt it, and then we can see what it completely looks like. So let's go do that now. Okay guys, so the quilt is finally completed. It didn't take very long to quilt. I decided was to take my walking foot for a walk, and I used my walking foot to create all of the quilting lines that you see. The quilt measures a 60 by 74, so it's a beautiful size. It fits really well on this double bed here. This is actually a spare room that I use for these purposes. And for all of the frames, or I should say the pictures, I just did just simple quilting inside of them. So for this one here, I just used some geometrical lines. This one here, I just did those patchwork. Some feathers on this one here. Same here. Lines on this one. So very similar quilting techniques within all of the frames. It took me a day to make this because I had to go out. I had to go to my niece's birthday party, and so I wanted to make the quilt very quickly, and so I started very early in the morning to prepare this, and it did take a day to make. It doesn't take long at all to quilt together, and as I told you at the beginning, I use my walking foot, which I really love the pattern it gave, actually, with all of the small little diamond quilting lines in between. So this works out really lovely. I would encourage you to do this quilt if you're looking for something really sharpish and, you know, just a bit of mindless sewing to do. For some of them, I literally used the pattern itself within the frame to actually use for quilting. So for this one we're looking at currently, I just did quilting lines around each of the actual little diamonds there. For this one I did a motif. So it worked out really, really lovely. I certainly enjoyed making this quilt. In fact, I enjoy making all of my quilts. So I hope this has encouraged you to try this jelly roll picture frames. And of course, if you wanted to use yardage, you can, and just cut your strips up and make it into a scrappy quilt. For the borders, I did a 4 patch there, and I just did them. I did 3 at the top excuse me, and I did also a pieced border, but I only did this piece border at the top and at the bottom, and these were leftover jelly rolls from one of my previous quilts. So I just used everything up really to see what it would look like, and it came out really beautifully. So you can see some of these here were just simply white strips, so that fits in really nicely, so it just looks like a space there. Again, another one there. So you can play around with them. You can actually set it on point also, which was another idea I had to do with the quilt. But because I wanted to finish this in the day, I decided to lay them out just as squares, but I think on point was absolutely beautiful. It just meant that I had to also cut up the set in triangles, and I didn't really have time to do that, as I mentioned that I had to go to my niece's birthday party, and so I didn't really want to be late nor to let down her or myself, so hence the reason I stick to it as simple as possible. But had I had time, I definitely would have put it on point rather than set it straight as squares, because it looked really beautifully once I laid it out in that particular way. So it's up to you. I think it's a good idea to try that out, and obviously you would need to add some additional measurements. There will be a pattern to download for this quilt. I mean, it's really beautifully. One thing I do like about it is the fact that it's really light, so it's not stiff, and I love light quilts. So on the back you can see all of those quilting patterns again. And I just did a very light ditzy blue floral print. Wasn't anything special because, as I said, I was just in a rush, so whatever quickly came to my hand is what I actually used. But the quilt did come together quite quickly, really. It didn't take long at all. So it's really a quilt in a day process. And as I said, it's nice and light. As you can see, it just flows really beautifully there. You know, no problems at all. It's not heavy, so it just works. So if you like and enjoying this video, please don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification bell, and of course stay tuned for more projects and crafty quilting designs. And of course, thanks for all of your subscriptions so far, and it's really a pleasure making my quilts and sharing it with you. So once again, happy quilting guys, and bye for now.